Welcome back to Finance Friends. I'm your host, Fabian, and this is season 4. This season, we're diving deep into the world of investing. Not just where to put your money, but how to think like a professional investor. We are bringing you conversations with highly intelligent, incredibly motivated investors. With weekly episodes, make sure you stay tuned in. On the Finance Friends podcast today, we had Stephen Orr, who started his career in politics helping President Clinton become the president, then moving into sports media, where he worked in the NBA, NFL, across all different sports before working on Wall Street. And now he set up Quasar Markets, which is a AI-powered platform that brings financial literacy and market research together. But listener beware, it might sound a little bit different because this was a VC. First time for the Finance Friends podcast. Listen in. Well, welcome, Stephen, to the Finance Friends podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on the show today. I love this.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. So we're just chatting. So it's still Monday in the US, and it's been a long weekend, and it's Tuesday morning here in Melbourne, Australia. So where are you based in the States?
I live in Tampa, Florida, and I'm in New York and DC a lot, but I don't like cold weather, and I know it's the summer down there for you guys, but I love this. I love the beach and the sunshine and fishing and all that kind of thing. So I love being in Florida.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I think one of Australia's best golfers lives out of Tampa, Florida. I believe, and I've just gone blank. Smith is his surname, and I forgot his first name, but loves his fishing and loves his golf. So great spot to be. And so tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you're currently founder of Quasar Markets. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I'm the CEO and founder of Quasar Markets. We want to build the Amazon of fintech, mainly because there's not been a place that has everything. Think about it from the perspective of the whole world. How does the whole world talk to each other in a way of finance or politics and weather and sports, and putting it all into one platform, an end-all be-all. Think of it like the Amazon of fintech.
Yeah, okay. So give us an example of an Amazon. To access this platform, is it a subscription base, or who would be the end user, or who are your clients or customers?
Yeah, the end users, everybody, quite frankly. We wanted to build a platform that was institutional and retail. And what I always say is everybody's an investor, whether you have stocks or not. You're also investing when you go to the grocery store, or when you buy a car, or when you buy a home. You want to make better decisions. And what if I could help make those better decisions? And also understand it in any language. So if someone in Japan is researching NVIDIA stock, I want to see what they're saying in Japanese and English. And then what we're saying, because I want to make the world a little bit smaller than it is right now. And the way to do that is to produce data on all sides of the planet and understand why things are going the way they are, and how people think and why they're thinking the way they're thinking, and the way that social media is playing an involvement, as well as government data sets, as well as institutional data sets of, think of it like finance and 10Ks and 10Qs here in the SEC and filings, to make sure that we're getting real data and real knowledge and real news, and filtering out the noise. A lot of times social media or what the media is saying might not be the actual real truth. And I want to dig down and I want to peel away those layers of that onion and make sure that we have what's really going on.
And how do you filter out what's social media versus what's real and accurate? Because obviously online there's a lot of information, but how do you verify that information?
Yeah, and we use a lot of AIs. In our case, we have over 18 AIs in our system. And one of the things that I've always said is AI hallucinates or doesn't get the answers always correct. But what if you could take AIs and actually attach them to the actual databases and not attach them to every database like Wikipedia or things or social media? But if you wanted social media, you could have the AIs attached to the social media to get a better answer to a better question. And our machine also gives you a better question and a better answer to a question you might not even know to ask, meaning that you might have been asking about NVIDIA options, but what you really want to know is whether or not the people are actually buying NVIDIA chipsets. And so how do I know that's true? And so to be able to attach to actual media companies, let's say Bloomberg, or to Wall Street Journal, or Australia papers, and I want to know what's going on down in Australia. So I want to attach down to the actual newspapers and actually figure out what's really going on and filtering out it. So not having social media actually on it if you do not want to.
Okay, so the end user gets to choose their source of truth ultimately.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have data inputs from all over the world and data feeds from all over the world that have been gathered through AI. Is that correct?
That's very correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and how many? Can you talk to us about your users on the platform and how many users you have, and are they institutions, individuals, or everyone across the board?
Well, I appreciate that. It's a great question. And we have institutional and retail on the platform. And very soon we'll have a very free version of it because we have really special deals with NASDAQ and with ICE, New York Stock Exchange, with data deals so that we can give it away. But if you want institutional data, it'll be $100 US per month. And it'll give you all the access to every data set we have on there, including the AIs, including how you can think a little bit better. And we have machine learning LLMs inside the machine that you can talk to the machine and talk to it in a way that it becomes part of you and not just you getting a question and answer response like a Chat GPT or a Gemini.
And is that across, you mentioned stocks and you talked about NVIDIA options. Is that across other markets like FX and
every single market, commodities, stocks, options, futures, everything on the planet will actually be in the system.
Yeah, and how did you come up with this idea to launch it? Where was the light bulb moment, as we would say, to say, well, this is what could really work in the market?
Well, what was very interesting is I've had a really good background, and I've worked in the White House and the State Department, and I've been in the highest level of governments where I know data is very important. And I've had the opportunity to be in TV all my life, and I've had the chance to be in sports and data and technology. And all of that needed to converge into one platform, and there wasn't one of those platforms. If you think about it, in your phone right now, you probably have like 500 apps, and you only really use one or two. And for me, I want to put all those apps into one place to make it very easy for a person because they get overwhelmed, and I don't want to overwhelm a person. I want to bring it down to everyone's level based on who they are. They might be a plumber, they might be a doctor, and be able to talk to you in that level of how to understand the world. For example, cocoa futures really affect people who love chocolate, Hershey's chocolate, or let's think of rice, or in Australia, you have the Outback, and when's the best time? When's the heat coming through? And when's a good time to go to the vet for the dog, and all those kind of fun things. And you may not understand, you may not really know, or you may not understand why sports really affect, like Australia rules football. How many Americans actually understand Australian rules football? Not many, right? And so what if I wanted to expand that universe, and we wanted to do that too? Because sports really do affect the financial world. Just the very second that a sporting event comes on, the trading world stops. I mean, think about it from our case. So we just had the Super Bowl. Crypto trading slowed down during that time. Yeah. Think about it from the perspective of cricket. When cricket goes on in India, gold trading slows down a lot. So that is a things that people didn't really understand, but it can help you understand those positions.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, we have the cricket's a big sport in Australia, and we had the Ashes, which is Australia versus England. And we had 40,000 travelling British people come to Australia for the Ashes. And that actually affected, obviously, Australia's a small place. So 40,000 POMs, as we call them, drinking beers and eating out a lot affected inflation rates in Australia. So it's quite interesting you talk about that. I'm actually off to the US later this year to watch the World Cup. Australia's playing the US in Seattle. So I've got tickets to that game. And interesting, I was lucky to score tickets, and I think I bought them for $700 US a ticket, and now they're selling for about $5,000 US a ticket. And so I'm debating the capitalist in me says, well, I can make enough money to pay for some of my trip, but also this.
And if you have the AI, my goodness, you can have find out, hey, when's the best time to sell my tickets? Maybe not right now. Wait another month or two. Maybe the weather isn't going to be good at that time of year. There's a lot of factors, right? And those factors affect the pricing of things. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sports. Obviously, in the US is big. Super Bowl is big. Who do you follow in the NFL?
I am a big Washington team. I love and when I started following the Redskins, and of course now the Commanders, but I love Washington, and of course Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I live in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, fantastic. So, how let's take a step back. You talked about working in politics and in tech and data. So, can you bring us back to the start of your career and give us some insight into where you started? And for any of our listeners that obviously you're very entrepreneurial and you've set up something that is quite niche and unique in the market. That with as technology has evolved and AI has evolved, there's an opportunity for new markets to be created. But let's take a step back. What did you study at university or college, as you call it in the States? And do you talk us through your early days?
Yeah, it's very simple. When kids wanted to be firefighters and astronauts, I wanted to be a stockbroker back in the day. And I have always had that in the back of my head that I wanted to be in the financial markets. And I had an opportunity in 1992, but I studied at school. I studied politics, poli-sci, and business management. And I wanted to merge those two together. And I had two opportunities. One was to go to New York and one was to go to Washington, D.C. And I ended up on the campaign for Bill Clinton, and we won. And so I ended up in Washington, D.C. For 8 years, and ended up being there over 16, to be honest with you. And I had the opportunity to be at the highest levels in the White House and State Department. And again, those are data points, right? I love that. And I got to be around some of the smartest tech people in the world. And of course, after that, I ended up in pro sports and NBA and NFL and PGA and the Olympics, in the tech side, the TV side. And I got to learn that side of it too. But I was always in the finance world, of course. I was always a trader at heart, and I always traded, and got to go to Washington, D.C. and New York City and live there too as well, and run, with money.net, and of course, senior VP of Benzinga, and help build some of the platforms that people use today, and some of the data sets that they use today, and the charting systems that they use today, and the friends that we made throughout those systems. All throughout that, I was at the forefront of all of those builds. And in fact, some of the things even used today around the world are things that I helped build. And so I realized that at one point, it's either put up or shut up. So I was at the Bitcoin conference in Miami, at which I go to every Bitcoin conference. I'm a huge fan of cryptocurrency. And what I noticed was that there were a lot of modules, a lot of different pieces of the puzzle, but not one place that had everything, not trading and not AI and not modules, and be able to put this in every different language around the world, and to have every piece of that, and to build a place for education, and build a place that no matter who you were, retail or institution, but you could have a place to roost and be able to show off your data, your module, who you are as an educator. And as I always say, just because you have 1 million followers on Instagram doesn't make you a good educator. It makes you good at marketing. And what I want to do is create a place for those people that really have the understanding and the institutional knowledge of the markets, and be able to bring that to, and allow them to have a place where they can set up home and educate.
Yeah, well, I think as AI is becoming more involved in our everyday life, I think there's going to be two types of people that embrace it and use it to learn more rapidly, and people that, I guess, reject it like most technology and fall behind. So the fact that you've created a platform which is accessible to anyone around the world in any language to get any data set around markets or sports creates an equal playing field for
That's
whether
right.
it be a retail investor or also an institutional investor.
You got it, 100%.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Well, let's talk more about your current business. From when the light bulb moment in your mind to actually launching the product, can you talk us through that process and maybe even a little bit around the funding of that? And because it's I don't know, tell me, is it expensive to build this platform?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the two things that you need to have in building a fintech is you need to have developers, you need to have money. And I was very fortunate to partner with Kiwi Tech out of DC, one of the largest developer firms, where a lot of companies have 2 or 3, or I've got a guy who does development. I have 1,100 developers at my disposal. And one of the things I loved about Kiwi Tech is the CEO and founder there, also a friend, is also the chairman of my board. So we made a partnership that allowed me to do that. And we started the process of friends and family rounds, and we raised over $3.5 million, and we built the machine. And here in a few months, we'll have access to that. And we've also got Reg A's and Reg CFs, and we have investor partners, that big ones that are coming in very shortly. It's very exciting. And yes, in order to do all of that, in order to build a TV shows and stations and educators and all of that in every language, it takes money, and it's not easy. And even the big firms can't do it because they don't have the right developers, or they don't. The thing that's changed now with AI is now the technology is actually caught up with my ideas. It took a while for that technology, but I've been talking about AI for 15 years, and even the AIs had not caught up. Now they have LLMs and natural language modeling has now caught up, as well as every language now that we have. As well as Web3 side of this, as well as GUI 3, which is coming out very shortly from Google. And all of those things really weren't even around the last 5 years. But I started the process of building it early. Why? Because all the platforms you have today just are built on old technology, on old stacks. And I wanted to build everything on a new stack in a way that you didn't even need an app. You don't even need anything. It doesn't matter if you're your Oculus, your Apple Vision Pro, whatever. It's automatically built, and it's automatically changes to what you're looking at.
Yeah, that makes a big deal for someone like me who's not technically advanced. I'm not a coder. I know nothing about software, but I know what information I want to find and what to look for. So it's great, that platform. So and you mentioned that at the moment it's only a paid version, but soon there will be a free version available to everyday investors or retail investors, or everyday people, I should say, because it can benefit everyone.
That's right, 100%. I mean, I wanted to build it where the access to the data was free. I said in the past that the difference between the haves and the have-nots is how much money you have in the bank. In the future, the haves and the have-nots will how much data do you have access to. And when people ask me about, what company should I invest in AI, I always say the same thing: the companies that have the data. Amazon's, Google, Facebook, they already have all that data on you. They're the companies to invest in. And you're also going to need companies like security, like CrowdStrike and Cloudflare, and the backends for Amazon has AWS. They already have the data. They already have the sets. What they don't have is the platform to do this on. And so we wanted to build all of that out. And that's right. So in order to do that, I wanted to make it free. I wanted to make it in a way that, but if you wanted the institutional or very big, hard data, all of that, then I made it as cheap as possible, $99 a month. So we did it in a way you don't even need a half off on whatever the deal is of the week. I think that's wrong. I think I just want to make it a place where it's as cheap as I possibly can, for as good as I possibly can, and as much as I possibly can get into the machine.
Yeah, fantastic. And can you share some insight into current users, the adoption, and what the plan is over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years?
I can tell you the adoption rate is now faster than anything on fintech right now, and I'm really appreciative of all the people that are on our platform. We don't really give out numbers for obvious reasons. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but we are growing fastest. This has just been awesome, the speed at which we're growing at, and of course our own TV show, Quasar Markets Live and Quasar Markets. We're coming out with a TV as well. Another show coming out, and we're going to be spotlighting inventions and things of that nature. So with a very long-term crew, shall we say, very got that pedigree behind them. Pretty soon you'll be like looking at people that you know who they are, that want to come over and work with us.
Fantastic, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And then on that, do you see is there an opportunity to potentially trade through the platform as well? Is that available now, or is that maybe available in the future?
It will be available very soon. I appreciate you asking that. This question. Yeah. Yes, we've already been approved for a brokerage, and that's already done. So yes, and you'll do it right through the platform too as well.
Yeah, and will that be across all markets?
All markets, including bonds.
Yeah, okay. And if you had obviously founded in the US and
That's correct. But we're building it in every country too as well, in their language and in their abilities. So in other words, it is their machine. In Japan, it'll be in Japanese, obviously, but it'll be a Japanese company, not a U.S. company. In Australia, it'll be an Australian company, not a U.S. company in Australia. So I'm very excited about bringing Australian data to the Australian platform. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, we'll have to have a discussion. Have you launched in any other countries yet, or is it just in the US?
Yes, we've already have it in every language already.
Yeah, and it has been launched like in Australia, for example? So
we have an Australian version, but I want to make it even better. I'm such a perfectionist that I want to make it with the Aussie colors and the Aussie flag and all the fun things behind it. Of course, my wife is from Ireland, so obviously Ireland and Australia. But I love that side of it, the sports side of it, and putting the sports data into it, the weather data into it, and the news data. So I want to go be in Sydney and in Melbourne and actually ask, what data sets you want to see in the system.
Yeah, well, let me know when you're coming and I can share a lot of information with you and introduce you to the right people. So
I love it, yeah.
And especially Australia. Australia is very much a commodities-based country, so weather can play a big part,
right.
but also supply and demand globally, especially from China too, which is reducing now, thankfully. So, what else should we, as an end user, what else do we need to know about your platform, or can you share any additional information that maybe we haven't spoken about or discovered yet?
Oh, I like that. Well, one of the cool things about it is I've always built a lot of the modules around fintech. Some of the biggest unusual options and things of that nature in other companies. I now have a playground to build whatever I want, and other companies have a playground to build whatever they want to in the machine. You can build modules inside the system and resell those as well as some of the coolest ideas for AI that no one has. We will have them in our platform, and things that I can't even begin to explain to you that I have to walk my developers through because they don't even understand it sometimes. So you'll sort of see some of those things come out in April and May and June of this year, products and platforms that just aren't available anywhere else because they can't even come up with the ideas.
Yeah, interesting. And what's your take on, and I'm not sure exactly when this will come to air, but we've seen the last month or so since the new Claude AI tool, you could call it, has come out. A lot of these SaaS businesses have been sold off substantially because the ability to build your own platform or compete, and maybe the IP that these big tech companies have is maybe not as far advanced now with new coding technology. What's your take on that, and how does that affect your business?
Does not affect me one bit. In fact, it proves that I was right the whole way through, that this is what we're supposed to be doing. The problem is that a lot of companies just use one AI to attach, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, and they're Perplexity, and they're hoping and praying that one AI is going to be the answer. But we all know that the problem is not one AI. We know that we have an AIs for music, and an AIs for regular data, and AIs for fintech, and AIs for finance, and an AI. I want to put all of it into one machine, so the machine decides what's the best route, what's the best way of pulling down data and understanding that, and having a back end that's created based on that specifically. And of course, that's been patented.
Yeah, and obviously it depends on making sure that there is a source of truth around that data.
You got it.
Yeah, so being able to find that. So, no, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And what do you think the biggest competitive advantage that you have as a founder and CEO? Is it your background in politics, in sports, in markets? Because that's quite unique and diverse that I, from my experience, haven't come across anyone with that background.
Well, I appreciate that. That's absolutely right. I mean, I'm one of those guys who just wants to do everything. I just love life, and I can't wait to be an actor too at some point, I guess. But I mean, when you look at the markets in general, most people don't really understand just how markets work. That in order to get a commodity to market, you need someone to dig it up out of the ground, or to separate the wheat from the chaff, shall we say, or sports, or how does weather affect that commodity or that stock. And right now we're talking about NVIDIA chipsets, because is there a chip crunch? Are we not getting enough memory chips? Is that going to cause a problem with margins on sales? How is that going to affect Apple phones? Or how's that going to affect Samsung phones or Google? Or are we going to need more cloud services? Are we going to need all of those things revolve? And we will find through AIs that there are connections that we didn't even know that existed, that they will find before we even understand it. And there are people who may not understand that level, right? But the machine will be able to explain to them or give the person that asking the question, hey, you're asking about new clothing. You want a new shirt? Great. But you know what? So there's a new shirt coming out of Australia that you might like. And guess what? It's a good time to buy it because it's their summer down there right now. Or they'll be dumping their summer clothes on us. We don't know, right? Those are some serious, crazy questions that you don't know, but will affect the price. And people are, well, why did the price of petrol or gas go up? Well, I don't know. Well, I can tell you why. I don't know why did the stock price fall? I can tell you why. Yeah. Right. And I want to be able to make the user, whether they're institutional or retailer, a much smarter investor, a much smarter person, and be able to pull that data down much faster and in a way that they understand it and in their language.
And if the data is so accurate, then there's a efficient market pricing hypothesis, I think it is called, that if all the data is available, does the market then correctly price every asset?
No, because every single person is different. We think every single person on the planet thinks differently, right? You might be a plumber, you might be a car mechanic. You're going to think differently than a person that works on Wall Street. You're going to think differently than the farmer in Illinois, than the farmer in Australia. There's two different commodities, right? And people that are in coal or in oil and gas don't think the same as the people that have meat, like cattle and pigs. They're different, and they think differently, and they work differently, and they act differently, and they ask questions differently. And each person has a different level of education and each different level of background and who they are. The machine will actually come around to that person as who they are persona-wise.
Yeah, okay, and give them information based on where they're at. And right. And so then does your platform create like forecasting?
Yes, of course. Yeah. But not the way that tells the person how to act, but to give them a better question, to a better answer, to a better question, to a better answer that they didn't even know to ask in the first place. A good example of that would be, I was looking at commodity prices, cocoa prices in the Ivory Coast. And I knew through my weather that there was going to be El Nino coming across the Atlantic and it hit the Ivory Coast, and it affected it. But what I didn't know that there was geopolitical issues going on in the Ivory Coast that even pushed it even further. So they couldn't get the cocoa even out, and the price of cocoa tripled in price. And then when El Nino passed through and the geopolitical issues went away, the price cratered. Today, cocoa is the lowest price it's been in 20 years because we knew the answer to that. Not after the news came out, but months before it happened, because I wanted to know that before it even happens.
Yeah, of course. And then obviously if once you have the trading capability through the platform, you can have the information available and trade then and there.
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, we're looking forward to launching your Australian business. Obviously, it's available currently to Australia if they go on. We'll add the link to your website, but is there an app at this point?
Yeah, it's all the same thing. It's on the same machine, quasarmarkets.com. Whatever you're looking at it, if you're looking at your phone, you're looking at an Apple Vision Pro or your Oculus or your desktop, laptop, iPad, whatever you're looking at, the machine will automatically transform to what you have.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. That's great. We're looking forward to seeing the business grow and expand. And based on what you've told me, it looks like it's all guns blazing, as we might say, and good times ahead. So look forward to, maybe I might see you at the USA versus Australia game in Seattle in I think it's in end of June. Will you be heading?
I'm definitely going up to Seattle, so we'll be on the opposite ends. I think I'm going to root for USA though.
No, that's understandable. But I was going to say there can only be one winner, but there can be a draw with football.
That's right. We can't have a draw. And I will say though we'll have a beer afterwards after the game.
Most definitely. Well, thank you, Stephen, for coming on the podcast. And I understand it's late where you are at the moment and early morning in Australia, but thank you for sharing your background and your insights about the business and a unique proposition which our Australian audience will definitely be interested in exploring.
Well, I appreciate having me. This is a fantastic platform, and I love your podcast, and I wish you all the best, and I look forward to doing this again with you, man.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening this week. Stay tuned for our next episode and keep up to date with us by following the Finance Friends podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Plus, connect with us and our guests over on our LinkedIn page, all linked in the show notes.
Disclaimer: this podcast exists for informational and entertainment purposes only. The personal opinions of the speaker and guests do not represent the view of any other party. If this recording contains reference to financial products, that reference does not constitute advice nor recommendations and may not be relied upon.